Today we'll be exploring the Talking Water Gardens in Albany, Oregon, over 4 separate trips to look for action on the rails and in the ponds. The location of the Talking Water Gardens allows for views of nature and of passing trains. The Talking Water Gardens is built on an old factory and is used by the City of Albany for wastewater treatment. The public park was created to naturally treat wastewater from homes and businesses after passing through treatment facilities. The wetland plants absorb nutrients and waterfalls oxygenate the water before it is returned to the Willamette River. The site is also located directly next to the Portland and Western Railroad's Albany OE yard and shop. This is just north of the main yard in Albany and the Amtrak station there. Upon discovering this, it would seem that this juxtaposition of nature and industry would be ideal for catching trains while enjoying nature. March 1st, 2024. It was a beautiful Oregon day. It was both raining and snowing, and I regretted all my decisions that led me up to this point. Why did I go train spotting on this day of all days? I don't know. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I had hoped to see some yard action or some through freight, but the only schedule I knew was Amtrak's, so that's what I planned for. I waited for Amtrak to fly by on the tracks that bypassed the yard, and it was freezing, and there was this damned fence in the way, which caused a ton of frustration at this location. This fence ran along the entire length of the yard and of the water gardens, so I had to extend my tripod over my head to actually see the damn tracks. Finally, Amtrak 504, which services Seattle, came around the yard. Freight and Amtrak traffic bypassed the yard via the UP Brooklyn Subdivision line that goes east of the OE yard. Why is it called the Brooklyn Subdivision if we're in Oregon? I don't know. I don't know, dude. I have no idea. I'm just a guy who looks at trains sometimes and with the camera, so I got no clue. But I do know that the yard used to be the yard for the Oregon and Eastern Railway, and that's why it's called the OE yard. So, there you go. The weather only got worse as I looked around the yard before turning towards the gardens. There was fresh beaver sign, and the ducks didn't really seem to care about the weather. There wasn't much else to look at right now, to be fair. Going back to the tracks, Portland and Western engines 3546 and 2317 came down the yard. 3546 is a GP38-2 first used by Missouri Pacific, and 2317 is a GP39-2 and an ex-ATSF engine. The train stopped and the crews got out to apparently tie down 2317. After it's tied down, the crew jumps on 3546 and heads north. Never see them again because right after this I left. I was so wet and cold. Man, I hate the cold so March 8th. A week later, I returned in significantly better weather. The birds were singing, the ducks were quacking, and the yard had a train loaded with logs and lumber. Different engines were in the yard today, including PNWR 3549, 2305, and 2308. I caught Amtrak train 504 again, this time with the non-powered F40 PHR leading in the Amtrak Cascades Color Scheme. Neat! The Pacific Northwest is known for its forest products, and these log cars get the timber where it needs to be. Many of these old cars have restrictions, symbolized with the R after their reporting numbers. These cars are considered too old by the Federal Railroad Administration, but have a waiver for their continued use. I found woodchip cars with the same markings, with the date they were labeled as such stenciled on. PNWR 3549 is at the front of this train, and the crew walks down checking the cars before pulling out. The train begins pulling out of the yard. That is, until it just stops. I attempt to walk to the other side of the yard to see what's going on before I get absolutely jump scared by 3549 coming through the yard. The crew stops shortly after and flips a switch. This engine is also a GP38-2 from Missouri Pacific and is a recent addition to PNWR's roster. The crew loads up and heads north. I also never saw this one again. I have no clue where it went. After this, I explored the ponds and trails some more. The gardens are separated into different pools that cascade down into each other before reaching the Willamette River. In the middle of the garden runs a service road for the railroad to get to the yard. Each body of water is surrounded by wetland plants that soak up excess nutrients from the wastewater. The ducks in turn eat the plants and other creatures living in the pond, turning it into an urban wildlife sanctuary. The sounds of heavy industry echo in the background as ducks like the American widgeon feed. Red-winged blackbirds and marsh wrens sing constantly throughout the whole day, nesting in the reeds. These northern shovelers filter out the water with those massive chonkers.
Nice.
Diving ducks like this male bufflehead feed on invertebrates below. This male blue-winged teal is actually rare for the area.
Wow, that's incredible!
Documenting and seeing these rare species show how important places like these are. Moments like these in nature allow for a respite from our busy lives, and these birds are just so beautiful and elegant. Okay, well, there goes that moment. Back to the trains, I guess. This is the front of the train from before that never left the yard, with center beams loaded with lumber. PNWR 2308 now sits in the front end and is tied down. This is a unique locomotive as it retains its old Santa Fe colors from back in the day. You can even see a bit of the old lettering still peeking through. This engine was originally sold to the Willamette and Pacific Railroad, which is now a subsidiary of PNWR. It still retains its old WPRR lettering though. Finally, PNWR 2305 started up and started spewing white smoke. After realizing it wasn't going anywhere, I decided to leave, but not before seeing this acorn woodpecker near the entrance. This bird stores acorns and dead trees to feed on over winter. That's nuts.
Do better!
April 19th. It was a beautiful spring day in Oregon, and this time I went in the afternoon to hopefully get a chance to see an actual freight train. However, the first thing I saw was Amtrak Train 503 southbound from Seattle. As spring progressed, more life showed up at the gardens and on the tracks, as this killdeer here enjoys spending time in gravel areas. An osprey moved into the cell tower across the way, although I just couldn't focus on it to save my life. Willamette and Pacific Maintenance Away hoppers were staged in the yard, and like the log cars from a month ago, these also have a waiver to stay in limited service. Even though the rain has slowed down the past few weeks, the water is still high in the pools, allowing for the ducks to thrive. Here we see a pair of gadwall. We also see a group of green-winged teal. These are the smallest duck in North America.
We do not care.
In addition, the warblers have returned and stopped here during their migration. This is the best shot I can get of a yellow-rumped warbler. This common species was everywhere, and I spent 30 minutes trying to get a decent shot of them. These little crackheads are constantly moving and jumping around, making it near impossible to film. I hung out near the tracks filming these little guys, waiting to hear any incoming trains. Soon after, I heard Amtrak Train 14, the Coast Starlight, leaving Albany Station after starting in California. I set up south of where I was before to get a different shot. This train was led by the new Siemens Charger locomotive, followed by an old P-42 DC. But again, that damn fence got in the way of the shot. Ooh! On the way out, I spotted a Sora, a secretive chicken-like marsh bird that you usually don't see. It was a nice way to end the day. July 20th. After quite the hiatus of visiting the water gardens, I went back in the summer. I was going to pick up my girlfriend from the train station as she was taking the Amtrak from Seattle. I figured I'd spend some time in the gardens looking for a passing freight train before picking her up. The yard was dead. Nothing moved the entire time I was there. The water level dropped significantly, and the reeds and grasses grew up tall. Duckweed covered all the ponds, and I didn't see much in the way of birds. But hey, it was a beautiful day, and I left to go to the station to pick up my girlfriend. And wouldn't you guess it, right after I got to the station, a goddamn Union Pacific freight train barreled through the Brooklyn Subdivision, right past the station, and went on past the gardens. I barely got the camera out to film the back half of the train. What an actual joke this is. 4 trips, 4 trips to this garden to see a Union Pacific train or any sort of train passing by. It wasn't an Amtrak. And now it's just sitting right in front of me, but I'm not at the gardens. Ridiculous. All jokes aside, the Talking Water Gardens are a neat place to, maybe, see some trains and enjoy nature in the process. If you have family members who couldn't care less about trains, just have them walk around the gardens while you film to your heart's content. Maybe a better walk than I did. As for me, I'll probably never go back to the Talking Water Gardens. That's mostly because I moved to New York. I'm trading in Amtrak Cascades Union Pacific for some Empire service and see the sex, baby!